With President Tinubu's address, which emphasizes call for dialogue, our correspondent reports that key operatives at a joint security meeting have re-echoed this call for dialogue, urging patriots to sheath their swords and use words to build bridges of peace. Despite being blessed with oil and gas, Nigeria has for decades depended on oil-based petrol, neglecting its enormous gas resources that can power the economy. And President Bola Tinubu came on board with a resolve to change the narrative and deepen gas utilization. Plus, trending news in the world of sports. Hello and welcome to Panorama, reaching you live from Abuja. I'm Zenret Dingmun. Thanks for joining us. Now, despite being blessed with oil and gas, Nigeria has for decades depended on oil-based petrol, neglecting its enormous gas resources that can power the economy. And while the country was using its hard-earned foreign exchange to pay for and subsidize petrol, President Bola Tinubu came on board with a resolve to change the narrative and deepen gas utilization. Lydia Sampson has details.
Determined to address visible gaps and challenges in the oil and gas sector, President Bola Tinubu took a painful but necessary decision to remove fuel subsidy, which key players have applauded as saving the country from imminent economic collapse. Determined to address envisaged difficulties that came with fuel subsidy removal, the president immediately launched compressed natural gas initiative to power transportation economy and bring down cost of transportation and production. This will save over 2 trillion naira a month being used to import petroleum and diesel, as well as free up much needed resources for more investment in healthcare and education. The presidential initiative on compressed natural gas has since hit the ground running.
We've identified 123 conversions workshops. Our goal, if you remember when we launched this last year, was that we should have 100 by the end of this year. But just in the month of July, we've already identified 123. And our goal ultimately is to have between 1,000 and 2,000 of them operational in country by the year 2027.
When this conversion is done, not only transportation of people that will come down by about 50%, but even the cost of food will come down considerably.
If thing works as it is, I believe the cost of transportation will reduce.
We at Bolt, we see this as an opportunity to offer some relief to the people of Nigeria in terms of transportation.
Some commercial motorists are already testifying about the game-changing impact of CNG.
I've been using CNG for 5 months now, and the experience has been wonderful.
I would expect that the government ensures that there is full implementation of the PIA, and full implementation meaning that the market forces will determine the cost of petroleum products.
This is the dream of Mr. President. His consistent statement is that we must make this available to Nigeria, and this dream is becoming true. We'll construct all the modern stations across the 6 geopolitical zones, already work in progress.
Mr. President has made it very clear that gas is the transition fuel. We are sure that there are so many ailing industries in the country will come to limelight.
Similarly, the country has increased oil production to 1.61 million barrels per day, and the nation's gas assets are receiving the attention they deserve. Investors are coming back to Nigeria with 2 foreign direct investments signed for over $500 million since then. Industry players are unanimous that the oil and gas industry is on track, and the president's laudable reforms will continue to make Nigeria an oil and gas hub in Africa. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu has directed security agencies to remain resolute and stand against any individual or group of persons trying to undermine the sovereignty of Nigeria. This was at an emergency security meeting held at the State House. Let's hear from our State House correspondent, Musbao and Wahab.
Yes, the service chiefs and other heads of security agencies arrived State House this Monday afternoon, barely 2 weeks after an earlier routine meeting with Mr. President. The President actually suspended the Federal Executive Council meeting slated for this Monday earlier for something that apparently appears more pressing. And the meeting lasted for more than 2 hours behind closed doors with Mr. President and as well as the Vice President Kashim Shettima. And after the meeting, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, briefed State House correspondent talking about what transpired behind closed doors, and it was basically to appraise the security situation in the country going by the protest, the nationwide protest in town. Another issue that came up prominently was the issue of some Nigerians in parts of the country, particularly in Kano and Kaduna, flying another foreign flag in the country, which these Security Council condemned totally. Let's take a listen to the Chief of Defense Staff.
For those of them flying flags, if you see a lot of them are kids being pushed to do that. We're following up with those ones that are sponsoring them, those that are pushing them, because you know the flags were also made. We identified those areas and we're going to take serious action against that. The President is clear on his instructions for us not to accept anyone that wants to disrupt the peace and tranquility of Nigeria. And we are all standing here together to show Nigerians that we're working closely, we're working together in synergy to ensure that there's peace and tranquility in Nigeria. That we have assured Mr. President.
And again, the armed forces and other heads of security agencies also reaffirmed their commitment to democratic rule in the country, as General Christopher Musa told State House correspondents.
Also the issue of coups. Nigeria is a sovereign nation. Nigeria is a democratic nation. All security agencies are here to defend democracy and make sure that democracy continues to strive. We will not accept anyone pushing or taking any action, seemingly or for whatever reason, to want to push for any change of government. Democracy is what we stand for. Democracy is what we continue to defend.
And also, the Chief of Defense Staff also affirmed the readiness of the military to be there as a backup in case of any breakdown of law and order by those protesting across the country to support the Nigeria Police Force.
And similarly, with President Tinubu's address, which emphasizes a call for dialogue, NTA's Defense Desk reports that key operatives at a joint security meeting have re-echoed this call for dialogue, urging patriots to sheath their swords and use words to build bridges of peace.
A convergence of information managers from different security agencies highlighting the nationwide protests.
We cannot afford to have an experience what we experienced during the last violent EndSARS in 2020. Up to now, many are still in pain, and we cannot allow such a thing to repeat itself.
Going to do protests, violent or peaceful ones, in the circumstance of our country is not the best way to register our grievances.
We will continue to be a stability force as we seek to bring stability in any area of our country where it is needed. I will encourage those behind this protest, if indeed they have the goodwill and interest of this country, to take the option of dialogue and let us resolve the challenges and let us move forward.
They stress that security will focus on ensuring community-oriented response to emergencies.
Now, the Kaduna State Police Command has apprehended 39 suspects engaged in vandalizing private and public property during the End Bad Governance protest, including protesters displaying Russian flag. The police public relations officer Mansur Hassan says those arrested include a tailor sewing the foreign flags for the group, 38 Russian flags, 1 Chinese flag, 2 catapults with a bag of stones, and various vandalized items were recovered. The State Commissioner of Police, Audu Ali Dabigi, warned all residents to adhere to the imposed curfew, as violators will be arrested and prosecuted. Meanwhile, the State Police Command says the rumor of a video on social media depicting protesters hijacking an armored personnel carrier vehicle is false, but a scenario where the vehicle driver professionally maneuvered and safely escaped a confrontational crowd. We'll take a break now. When we return, we'll join Adeola in Lagos for more reports from there.
In a land of peace and harmony, we cherish our freedom and unity. But around the world, we've seen how protests can spiral into chaos. What starts as a peaceful protest can sometimes end in anarchy, tearing communities apart.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days.
So those who experience it will run away from it.
Let's learn from these experiences. Let's value dialogue over destruction. Together, we can build a brighter future. Let's choose unity. Let's choose peace. Join us in the Peaceful Future Initiative, because together we can make a difference.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. One cube, endless possibilities.
Thank you for joining us in Lagos. And speaking more on the protests, we have a guest with us in the studio who will talk about the constructive dialogue for joining us national in Lagos. Unity. He is a legal practitioner on the protests. Thank you for joining us. We have a guest with us in the studio who will talk about the constructive dialogue. How can constructive dialogue in Lagos? He is a legal practitioner on the protests. Thank you for joining us.
Achieve anything through violence. Yeah. The way to go will be through genuine constructive dialogue. When I mean genuine constructive dialogue, over time there seems to be deficit of trust between the citizens and the government. But for once, the President and Commander-in-Chief have spoken to say he heard us loud and clear for those who are protesting against the hardship in the land. The economic malaise is not restricted to Nigeria, but other nations are responding in their own way. But coming back home, if you are saying that government is bad and you are protesting against bad governance, and now you go and destroy the few infrastructure, public infrastructure we have, it doesn't add up.
It doesn't, exactly.
But we should build on what we have and not destroy.
And that's a form of retrogression.
Retrogression. So we should build on what we have, bridge the infrastructure deficit, and not destroy the few that the public is. For public good. Yeah. So the way to go is to dialogue. Okay. With the citizens' grievances is heard loud and clear. They've made their point. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, there's a moral victory because the authorities are talking. Everybody is talking. Ministers are talking. Legislators are talking. It means that their protest, has gotten to the right quarters, and we should build on that by way of dialogue.
Okay, now that the right authorities have listened and they are working, what do you think the protesters should be doing at this moment?
What I think they should be doing is to give government a breathing space.
Okay.
We have a government in power that has 4 years mandate. It just barely covered 25% of that mandate. Out of 4 years, just 1 year, some months. So we get to this point not overnight. It was a gradual decay. Even though government is continuing.
Yeah.
But The
and it will take that same gradual process to build it up.
Rebuild and correct whatever needs to be corrected. The policies so far, the most bitter being the removal of subsidy, it needed to be done. But government could subsidize other things like food.
Okay.
You could subsidize food for your citizen. You could subsidize drugs, because these are basic essentials.
Yeah, the food already is going out because of the grains.
It's going out, but not in the way I had expected. How many percentage of Nigerian citizens are civil servants? If you are going to give rice at 40,000 to civil servants, what of those of us who are self-employed? What of the unemployed? What of the market woman? So anybody that has a national identity card should be entitled to buy that discounted rice. That would be my view.
All right. Now, just let us look at what specific mechanisms or platforms should, be established to facilitate this national, dialogue between Nigerians and, of course, the government.
There are several mechanisms that could be used and be effective. We could aggregate our thoughts through our elected representatives. That is one way to have a dialogue, to say when they get to parliament, put it on the discussion table, put it on the front burner and discuss. That is one way. The other way is for the civil societies, the traditional institutions, the student bodies, the market women to nominate their own representatives. And then government too will empanel some government key officials, and then they meet, give them a very conducive time frame and a conducive environment to discuss. Citizenry, what are your worries? What are your concerns? Okay, this is how much the government can do. Be very open and transparent. This is income. This is expenditure profile. This is the much you can do. And government should not make a commitment just to that intention. There should be a commitment that are achievable, that are deliverable, that we can put a timeline to say, okay, we are going to reduce transportation costs across, or we are going to bring in this mode of transportation such that, the price of goods and services movement will reduce. Maybe we have to look at subsidizing education again, because the 15, 20 years neglect of out-of-school children is what we are reaping today in some part of the country. So if in another 10, 15 years we don't have a focus of where we intend to be by way of educating our citizenry, we just might be sitting on a keg of gunpowder. All right, now, so in what ways can political leaders and policymakers encourage and model constructive dialogue, to bridge communication gaps? Lead by example. You don't tell me that government is broke and one government official is going in a motorcade, convoy of 15, 20 vehicles. You don't need that. Cut down the cost of governance. Once I see that my elected leader is modest, then whatever he's preaching to me will sink more than when he tells me one thing and he does another. So that way, I will earn his trust or her trust to say, oh, really and truly, things are not the way, we are looking at it from outside. But you don't tell me that we are broke. I should fasten my belt. Even there is no waste to tighten that belt. And then you are living in opulence and affluence. It won't engender citizens' confidence in our elected leaders. All right, now, how can civil society, because you're talking about policymakers and government now, we as Nigerians, we have our own roles to play. Yes. Now, how can civil society organizations play a role in promoting and sustaining dialogue that contributes to national unity? The civil societies should know that they can't exist outside Nigeria. There has to be in Nigeria. So, as much as they have members that believe in their ideals, roles, objectives, they should equally help in educating the citizenry. For instance, do not go violent. You have a right to, peaceful protest. Yes. It's a constitutional guarantee right. Constitution donates it to you. But when you begin to vandalize, kill, maim, loot, you are now a criminal. Which is antithetical to peaceful protest. Yes. And so they have a duty to educate their followers to say, don't destroy Nigeria, because that is the roof under which all of us are hiding our head. But those protesting now are from families. What roles should families now play at this critical time? Well, we've lost it a long time ago, perhaps by economic pressure, where both parents will have to go to work and leave the children to the care of nannies. So there are no more core family values. So the parents will have to know that every and any adult can give birth, but it takes conscious, deliberate choice to parent a child. So You give them the right value. You teach them against violence. You teach them against, stealing. Both religion condemn stealing.
Yeah.
The Bible, the Quran, even traditional institutions. So you don't go out to ventilate your grievance and then turn around 360 to begin to destroy other people's sweat. And I saw a viral video in one of the northern states where a pharmacist said his pharmacy was looted. Even the computers were taken away. Not a Panadol was left. That is not protest. He's probably not a government worker. So why put him into that tears?
All right, so now there have been challenges previously that have impeded, effective dialogue in Nigeria. How can these barriers, be overcome?
Let those who lead earn our trust. Once you earn the trust of citizenry, you agree with me that Nigerians are very, very patient person. We are very, very patient people. We hardly, when this government came on board, our subsidy was removed. We said, right way to go. Not too long thereafter, electricity tariff was jacked up, discriminatory, band A, band B. We still felt it was in the best interest. And some economic policies too, just like the joy of motherhood. You have to go through the pain of labor. So I imagine that is the pain we are going through.
Right.
But government should come out more open so that we can see that as we are swimming against the tide, this is the anchor point. And when we all get there, it will be abundant life for all.
Okay. Now, I want to say a very big thank you for your thoughts on this particular issue that the whole nation is actually, talking about. Now we're moving on to the latest updates in Kaduna. Reports from Kaduna says that the 24 hours curfew imposed on Kaduna, Zaria and environ by the governor, Senator Uba Sani, is in full force with major streets, including the popular Amadu Bello Way, empty. Our correspondent Haruna Mohammed, who monitored the compliance, reports that residents remain informed and some seen seated in front of their houses. Meanwhile, security operatives are at various checkpoints to ensure compliance as well as safety of lives and property. Now it's time for us to join Olumide Guntola for Sports Update.
United States of America team is on top of the medals table at the ongoing Paris Olympic Games Tuesday with 21 gold, 30 silver and 28 bronze medals. China is second also with 21 gold medals, but lesser bronze and silver medals. Hosts France and Australia tied on 13 gold medals to place third and fourth respectively. Meanwhile, Nigeria's favour Philly and Blessing Oborududu will be the cynosure of all eyes Tuesday as Team Nigeria attempts to get on the medals table. Ofili will attempt to become the first ever Nigerian and African sprinter to win the 200 meters Olympic gold medal after Mary Oyali's bronze medal feat 28 years ago in Atlanta 1996 Olympics. Ofili takes on World Super Powers Tuesday at the final of the 200 meters event. Also, Oborududu will attempt to pick first medal at the games in a bronze medal 65 kg freestyle wrestling against Park Sorghum of North Korea. Nigeria's Tobi Amushon will begin a campaign on Friday when the women's 100 meters hurdles will start. In another news, Kende Lamidi reports that the Ondo State government is upgrading some facilities at the Akure Stadium. The State Commissioner for Youth and Sports, Saka Ogunleye, who disclosed this, promised that the state government will further motivate the athletes to perform brilliantly at the forthcoming National Youth Games and the National Sports Festival.
Mr. Governor graciously approved the upgrading of this sports council. But we are talking about upgrading. We are trying to upgrade our facilities that's obsolete. We have listened to our coaches here and there. We also identify with them. But I can assure you that some of the issues raised will be resolved.
With Sports Update, Olumide Eguntola, NTA News.
Concludes Panorama from Lagos. Thank you for being a part of it. I am Adeola Komiakere. Have a fruitful day ahead.